Welcome to the University of Florida Department of Sport Management, Voices from the Field, Season 1, Session 3, featuring Danny Herz. Today, Danny will be providing insight into his professional background via a prepared presentation. Shelley Lyle, the Department of Sport Management Career Engagement and Outreach Coordinator, will be interjecting occasionally to ask any pertinent questions of Danny regarding the content being shared. Gabby, a UF Department of Sport Management Graduate Assistant and the coordinator of this event, will be monitoring the chat feature and asking any closing questions of our guest. Thank you all for being on the webinar today. Shelley, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this. I'm excited to introduce Danny Herz to you. He's going to share with us insights in his industry. And I want to start out with telling you a little bit about him. He's got lots of experience in various roles. First of all, he got his education from University of Florida, a Bachelor of Science in Sports Management, and Ohio University Master of Science in Athletic Administration. He has been a basketball coach at Everglades High School, and he has been an educator and head basketball coach, dean of students at American Heritage School in Plantation for 7 years. He was an athletic director and head boys basketball coach for TVT Independent Day School for 1 year, and president of Nothing But Net basketball camps, both in California and Florida from September of 2008 to July of 2014. He's also been a director of athletics and chair of PE department at David Bosnick School, and is most recently and currently the director of 6 Points Sports Academy, a summer camp. And he's been there since 2010 to present, and has recently received a promotion. So he's working with various camps now. He'll tell you a little bit more about that. And yeah, we're so excited to have you, Danny. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And Gabby and Brian, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And Danielle, I appreciate you very much in this process as well. I am going to share my screen, and it makes it tough for me to see you, but I'm happy to be interrupted or interjected with and ask questions anytime. And if I share this correctly, you just see some helmets. Is that what we're great? Wonderful. So just in terms of me and this role that I speak to you today. So look, we don't all have the same path to professional success in the sports world. And I think when I was an undergrad at the great University of Florida, I hope it comes across, by the way, how awesome it is to be with UF. And I am a Gator through and through. You'll see that here. But the pathway to me when I sat as an undergrad was I didn't understand that the path didn't have to go from A to B to C to D, or I had to work at a university or a Major League Baseball team or anything in between, that there's other ways to stay involved with your passion, which for me was sports, and still craft yourself a career of meaning, of impact, and still gets me excited in the morning. And that's my purpose for being here today, with a great appreciation for the opportunity. So I'm going to show you some slides, and we'll go from there. So first of all, putting off the spirit there, in your professional career moving forward, what if you could do the following things, would you be happy, right? So if you, as a professional, now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what if you had a job that allowed you to hire college coaches, hire even a director of athletics from, let's say, the biggest public school in the state of Florida, or support and supervise those who work for you and really encourage them to be their best and motivate them. You have budget management and ownership responsibilities. These are the kind of things now in terms of impact that mean the most. And I know that in my role, I get the opportunity to work with a lot of young adults who are about to graduate from college and a couple of years younger. And I know how important the impact factor is in our career choices. And I put that on there on purpose. And then to work with others in my field who are as driven and successful as well. I love that in terms of pushing each other. For me, I use the word recruit. I know in athletics it's not a great word sometimes, or it could be depending on what you do. But to me, to recruit 800 campers every year, 150 different staff members every year, that's exciting to me because it keeps me going. It's not easy, it's a challenge, and I get to meet that many people along the way. And you get to do things you like to do. So for me, I'm on the road a lot. And I'm happy to say that, spending that much time away is great, but I get to see the world and certainly meet really interesting people. So, what if you could have all of that at your fingertips? I would say that's a pretty good career in terms of a day-to-day operations for someone that loves sports, right? So that's me. That's what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. I put it first. I do like the picture simply because it shows the excitement. I think it was the end of a color war, and we announced a victory maybe for the blue team, it looks like. But most importantly, it shows spirit. It shows excitement. It shows happiness. And we all want that in our day-to-day career. So, who am I? Simply, yes, I'm a Gator and proud. I'm a Bobcat, not so proud, more so definitely of a Gator. I grew up in South Africa, and I loved sports. For me, sports was rugby. Cricket was my love growing up. And it transitioned when I moved here right before high school. I joined the JV basketball team, and not because of any other reason, but I wanted to learn about basketball. And I met my best friends on that team. I didn't play a minute, and I didn't understand the game. And so that year taught me how to be a teammate. It taught me how to learn, listen, and be coachable. And I say that year was as impactful to me as a professional today because those lessons are applicable today. And so I think we should never minimize what you go through. As a coach, I've been through a lot of times where parents are talking about playing time and parents are upset about this and that. Whereas I think my parents, who were quiet in that situation, but supportive of me and understood the lessons I learned, including resilience and being a teammate, would help me down the line. And I really believe they did. And I did not know coming out of school how my love of sports would translate to a career. I was unsure. So much so that my first job that I took, I was working in real estate. It was not sports, but I was volunteering, and you're going to hear about that in a second. And I volunteer coached a JV basketball team because I wanted to give to others that same experience I had. And I just felt my heart tugging at me between 9 and 3 or 9 and 4 to say, you got to do this, man. And you got to follow your heart and your passion and go for it. And that led me to a career in education. There was a moment where I had applied for a job at the University of Missouri and applied for a job as a high school teacher. And Missouri would have been athletics, but I went for the coaching. And I think it was the best decision. And I was lucky. I've coached McDonald's All-Americans as a head coach. I've coached Jordan All-Americans. I've coached 2 student athletes who signed with the University of Florida as Gators. And that to me was amazing. And I was so happy for them. In fact, the second all-time leading scorer at the University of Florida played for me in high school. And we are proud Gators together. And then along those lines, let me show you the picture on the left is me at the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts, giving a keynote speech, and that was amazing. Like imagine being for a basketball guy at the Hall of Fame, it was amazing. The middle picture is me coaching, and that obviously is a lot of years ago, not because it's black and white, but because I can't jump that high today. But yet it is a Gator tie, which again, you can't fake that. And that's the passion. I believe passion can take people a lot of places. And the picture on the right, I think I take that picture every year as camp begins, just me believing in what we do right now. So, but really through all those things I just told you, you want to know who I am really? I'm a Gator. And that's what it is. And I'm very happy to say that. So again, thanks for the opportunity to my fellow Gators. I love this program and believe that the program was very impactful in my life as a professional and on a personal level as well. So I want to share with you some core values that I believe in, and they're very simple, but it's just things that on a day-to-day basis help guide me, and I think can be helpful to others if you so choose. And I know not all of them can resonate with every person listening. I'm good with that. But if there's one or an example that makes sense with you, you're welcome to take anything. I learned in coaching a long time ago that people are willing to share, and everyone is better when people are willing to share. And I'm a sharer. I even share with my competitors when I was a coach. I'm happy to share plays and playbooks. And even the role I'm in now, which is competitive as well, I share with my competitors a lot. And there was question at the first time. I'm like, don't worry, it works out for both of us when we share. So I'm happy to share. The first one is this. It's a simple deal. You are who you are with, right? You win with the right people at your side. And I look for certain things on a resume. I look for certain things that we want to hire because I want that in our community and as role models. For me, the people that I'm looking for, we use the word motor, right? Like how hard can you go? How hard do you work? Is this a super important thing to you? Are you someone who is able to take something from start to finish and complete it, right? We want to give some guidance. We want to give some instructions, if you will, but then we want to see you go run with it from A to Z. And to me, loyalty, this again, maybe there's a lot of the coaching in the background here, but loyalty means a whole lot to me. And so, I'll show you this picture here is my full-time team at camp right now. There's 4 of us. All 4 of us have been with camp since 2010 in different roles. And you'll learn this as we go, but we have a 10-year relationship out of a 10-year camp. And so the relationships matter in where we go. And I'm proud, people always say to me, you were part of bringing up these 3, and these 3 people are obviously very influential in my life. I say it's the other way around. I think they helped me to mature and learn as well. All of us went to different universities, all of us went to different colleges, different backgrounds, part of the country. And yet we share a love of sports and making people better through what we're doing. So you win with people is number 1. Number 2, and this is something that I think is non-negotiable, is that don't ever say it's not my job. Better way to say it is it's always your job. And I might be the first in line to say, yes, I have a job with a title. I don't care about the title. What mostly I care about is that we together are one staff doing a job. And so it is very common. I'm happy to jump in there as a lifeguard. I'm happy to move bags. I'm happy to do whatever. And you'll find that permeates down, right? I can show 50 different pictures of my staff members doing what we call not their jobs, but it is their jobs because it's all of our jobs. And I think our campers in this situation, or our team when I was coaching, we all benefit from it. And the way I define it, and this is recently, within the last few years, I use the word and. Right? So if you are let's use the word program manager, if you are the director of marketing, what is your and? What else do you do, right? So if you're busy and we're here to help you, it's our and to help you right now. And then when we get busy, or you have some time available, or I can perhaps interject something that would be helpful, it's my and to help you, and vice versa along the way. So we use this exact thing. That's an and that I've taken from our employee handbook, saying that it's never not your job. It's and, like, what else can you do to make us better? And so the word us and we, and always above the word me and I, and that comes with an and as well. The next one, I'm going fast, so I apologize if I talk fast, but I figured I'm boring. It's better to go fast, right? The next one is you got to show up for people, and that's how you build relationships. And so if we talk about longevity of relationships, you talk about loyalty. This is a core value even as a professional, though, because what we're finding is that who you meet along the way, you'll meet again somewhere down the line. And it used to be who you meet on the way up, you'll meet on the way down. That's an applicable saying too. But I just think that the people who love and want to dedicate their life and their career to athletic administration are going to be with you for a long time. So show up for them, be there for them. Sometimes it's not easy. And I remember one year that we hired a staff member to come and coach basketball. He was an Israeli kid who had zero family and friends in America, 0. And he came to work for us. He was great. And he played soccer at Stetson University. And senior night, it's a terrible picture, but it's the only one I had. But I walked out with him. I drove 3 hours to go on senior night to go be with him. And those kind of things, it's a little thing. But today, he's a young man who I've obviously been in touch with since then, is doing great stuff and continues to be important to me. And I've gotten to know his family. But that's just from going and showing up for a senior night. And there's another camp example there that, in my travels, I'll make sure to find out what else is going on and how can I support people and show up for them. It's a big thing. I've also found it's a great way to start a relationship, showing up for them. Today I happen to be a supervisor of someone who the first time I ever met, She was coming into our organization. She wasn't going to work for me, but I was in town when they gave her her going away party. And I went to the going away party just to honor her, but I didn't know her. And so you show up for people and you immediately start building strength in that relationship. Um, Another core value that I think is so lost in school, you don't find this out in school all the time, but that is you better know what the priorities are of your organization and of the department or in your job. What are the priorities? What matters the most? Because you've got to prioritize your time that way. And I think a lot of people starting out in the careers or even in jobs don't know what the priorities are and thus end up with time allocated to less than priorities, let's call them, or things that don't matter as much. And it also, I think, helps not only keep people focused, but it helps us in terms of alignment and thus culture and cohesion. So I'm a big believer in you better know. I've got a sign, you can't see it, it's on the other side of the camera there, and it says no campers, no camp, okay? Meaning if I don't sign up campers, if I don't recruit campers, we can't have this great business and great time and great fun because that's the priority. Recruiting for us is the priority, and everyone that works here knows that. And so here's pictures of me over the last year or so with different families around the country going to recruit these kids. And it is a priority, and you've got to go and do it. So know what your priorities are and prioritize your priorities. The last one is such a simple thing, and yet people get into trouble today. And I know this is not about anything politics-wise, but sometimes people forget that we have to do the right thing, right? There's times where you're faced with dilemmas and you can take shortcuts and you can do things that are less than ethical or moral or less than, let's just say, the right thing. And it's going to come back to you at some point, and you can get away with it short term. You might even be able to get away with it longer than you think. But in reality, you better make the right choices. And so I've just got some pictures there with different things. No one wants to fire people. No one wants to have those difficult conversations. But news does not get better with age. And those difficult conversations will help you and your organization along the way. And it doesn't matter what level you are in the organizational chart. The difficult times, the good times, it's always the right time to do the right thing. Okay. So I'll stop there in case Shelley wants to ask a question, but I do have some career stuff afterwards.
Sure. Yeah, I do have a couple follow-ups from your last slide. It's very clear that you're passionate. Whether you're jumping in the air or your fandom for being a Gator, that's super clear. And tell me, can you speak to how important that is to be passionate about the sports industry to go into a career in sports? And I clarify career because I think often there's sports people getting a job in sports, but to have an actual career.
Look, for me, it's lucky because it's authentic, right? Obviously, I hope it comes across as authentic at least, but it is because I don't have to fake it. Meaning, I'm at work every morning when it's dark and I don't have an alarm clock. It's one of those things that when you truly love what you do, it just becomes the career and it takes you there. I never knew I'd be running a sports camp, right? There's no chance I knew that, but the passion took me there. And thus it is. I also think with careers, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. Like there's so many more options than just the entry-level job that maybe you're not so excited about. At the same time, you may have to go through that to earn some experience and make some connections and understand the business and understand what it means. Like it's not all happiness in terms of, I've got a thought here at the end where I say, you won't love everything about your job, right? But you can still love your job. And I think that's part of it too. Nothing is perfect. That's life. That's not just your career, that's life. And so if there's part of your job that you don't love, you do the best you can. You certainly do a good job of it. And you let that be done and you move on to the good parts. But I also think if you find something you're really good at as well, it can help you with the passion and the excitement for the job, right? So, if you ask me to do I don't know, something with I'm not downplaying, I'm just not good at it. If you ask me to do something with theater, for example, I would really struggle because I'm not good at it. I don't understand it. I don't have that passion for it. So I think do what you're good at, do what you love, and understand that big picture, not everything is always rosy, that you may have to do some things you don't love along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate the honesty. I always, especially right now, I think it's really important for everyone to know that it's not necessarily an easy or short road to get to the jobs that we dream about. But we all started somewhere, and like you said, everyone has their story, and they're all different. But being open, and I love that you shared about also, every job is kind of your job. There's no hierarchy, and I'm above that. And I think in the world of sports too, it gets easy to separate those jobs out. But in reality, a cohesive group and team is working together, which as
It does matter, and that leads to happiness too, right? Everyone that's in one of the positions that have that cohesion, and you like who you work with, or you at least respect who you work with, you find people stay in those jobs longer. The happiness level is higher. The culture is different. It plays a part in it if everyone's willing to do a little more and help you. Thus, we're helping the organization, but we're helping each other as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think team is all across the board. It's not the actual just team, but it's the coaches, it's the staff, it's all the support. So yeah, I think that, and people enjoy working in team when they feel like people have their back. So I love that mentality that you bring. And then last question is, you mentioned being a team player, being flexible, doing the right thing. What are top 3 qualities, and maybe you will speak to this, that you look for, maybe even character qualities in an interview when you want to hire people, and maybe not only in the camping when you're doing a director of camps, but also in the athletic directing world. I know we have some students very interested.
Look, I think especially in the world where it's hard right now, but it's also, I think, hard to be kind, and it's hard to find that on a resume. So I look for volunteer experience there. I love to see what's important to people that are looking for a job. You can often find that through volunteer experience. And, I think kindness, as crazy as that sounds, I would rather have kind people, good people around me. And so I look for that. And then I do look for have they had a job that's difficult? Have they had a job that requires them to work big hours and for the love of it versus for the pay of it or for the title of it? Because that usually, to me, indicates that the person understands how to work. It's hard. I'll even phrase this once. I have said that for our assistant director jobs, I would prefer not to have someone in their first professional job, because I want to teach them how to do the job, not how to be a professional, right? It's not a hard and fast for me, because Nina, who you'll meet here in a second, is in her first professional job for us. But if someone knows how to work and be a professional, I think that does a lot for you on a resume as well, especially starting out.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, go ahead. Those are all the questions I have for this section.
So in terms of career advice, I think who you work for is essential. And, people are so eager to get started in a business and to get that first job. And I go back to that decision I had to make between the University of Missouri and then going to coach high school basketball. But who you work for matters, and who your boss is does matter. And it goes a long way to your professional development, your personal happiness, the skills you learn. And I think that just as you are being interviewed for a job, your homework and research and almost reversing it is as important. And so this is my current job. He's been in the same job for 40 years. He supervises 15 of us in my job. His name's Paul. He is amazing. And let me tell you why. He is difficult. He is demanding. And yet he is supportive, and he has my back, and I know it. And let me tell you, he's difficult to work for. I mean, I'm telling you the truth, but I love him because he believes in me. And I think that if you can say that, then your boss, is doing a pretty good job. And you figure out what's important to him. It's health, it's safety, it's same things that are important to me, right? So we can find that, and he's shown me a lot that way. And I'll tell you this, I've had the other side of that pillow, and that's no fun also. So when I was younger, I figured this one out, who you work for matters. And today I would not take a job without a full understanding of the person that I'm working for. And maybe that's me. Like I know me. I'm driven, and I've got the way that I like to do things, and I can be I don't want to say difficult, but particular, let's say. So the fit has to matter as well. And when you're starting out, you may not be able to be as picky, but you can still do some research along the way. And there's a saying in coaching, and I really do believe it, that a bad, let's just say a good job with a bad boss is worse than a bad job with a good boss, and that who you work for matters, right? And that's what that statement is there. And I can tell you, even as a head basketball coach, I had 7 of my assistants go on to be head coaches. That was important to me that they had that. My current staff, we've been together for a long time, but it's because that's what they want, and they want to be there. I'm fully encouraging them in whatever that I've grad schools come into play for all of them, and I support that. My job is to support the people, because I want to be as good to them as Paul here on the screen is to me. The next one is, and I think as a young person, this is as simple as it gets, but find a mentor. And in a perfect world, the mentor has a career path that makes sense to you. It's not always perfect. I was young, in my early 20s, and I met a guy named Ed Cohen. On the left there, you'll see him. And on the right, you'll see me at his son's wedding, probably 10 years later. But it is a simple deal. As someone that can say to you, listen, can you rethink that, right? Or, hey, have you thought about it doing it this way? It's very hard sometimes to hear those kind of words from people that you don't take personally, that you respect. And yet every one of us, and all the way up, let's just say to the President of the United States, needs someone to tell them, hey, can you rethink that? Hey, does it really have to be done that way? Or, what's coming next down the pike for you? Where do you see yourself going? How do we get there together? And I think that we all need that in our life. So I'm lucky in that Ed has been that for me. The next one I've kind of touched on. I will volunteer every single year that I can, every single moment that I can. And that's when it was volunteering that led me to this career, in that I was volunteer coaching. And I said to myself, hey, we've got to do this on a full-time basis. So again, the volunteer says something about you, you're helping others, and you're feeling good about yourself. The intrinsic value of that to me means a lot. And you'll see here, Randy, who is he's actually on my camp board now, but he's a member of the community down there in Boca Raton, and he and I coached one of the little league basketball teams together. So just keeping up with the idea of volunteering. The next one is this, and I love Mike White and certainly Dan Mullen, but you can't be Dan Mullen or Mike White or Danny Herz or Brian Avery. You've got to be you, and your style might have some parts of others there, but you've got to find what works for you. And I think that's something I learned early on. One of the first coaching jobs I had, there was a guy named Andy Russo, who actually was Karl Malone's college basketball coach. I had his son on my team, and I was giving him all these X's and O's that I had seen, and he said, Danny, great, it worked there, but find out what works for you. Find your style. It was great advice. And so I have something that I always go back on for me, like for what I want to be known as, or known for, or represent as important to me. And it's very simple. And that is, if people think of me, whether it's in coaching or athletic administration or my current role, they're going to say he works his butt off. That's what they're going to say. And I don't look for it. I'm not motivated by outside praise. I know that's what they say, because I know it to be true. And I know no one's going to work harder. And I'm proud of that. And I think we all need to have that, where it's like, I'm proud of blank. And then you actually have to live up to that. When I got into the camp business, which it's a whole business that I didn't know about as I was teaching and coaching. But there's a guy who is very well known in this business by the name of Jay Frankel. And Jay runs a consulting company that helps camps. And probably the most sought after speaker, the most sought after guru. And he called me a year into my tenure. And I'd known him just because we ended up speaking together and getting along very well. He says, Danny, I got to tell you, I got a call from some of your peers and competitors. And they've told me to ask you to slow down with this recruiting stuff. And I took that to be the biggest compliment ever. I said, Jay, thank you, right? And you know that that's an unfair ask, and he did. And so, this is something I give to all the professionals and even the part-time folks that we hire at camp. I got this from one of the coaching sites that sent it to me. Might even been the NIAAA, which is something that I am still a member of and still certified in, the National Interscholastic Athletic Association of Administrators. But there it is. I don't care what you're doing. It's $0 and zero talent to make you set yourself apart from others. And that's a question I know I get a lot. I dedicate time in my calendar each week to do letters of recommendation and to help my staff move on to the next thing. But I share this with them, and how do you as a candidate look at this, and how can you share that this means something to you? And Shelley, you just asked a question that I want to just quickly go back to because something just popped in my head in terms of what sets people apart. One thing that I have looked for, and we have quite a few at camp, are student managers in different roles at universities and whatnot. And my last call prior to this was one of our staff members. She's a women's basketball manager at Virginia Tech. But understanding what she's going through there on a day-to-day basis indicates to me she's got a motor that will make her a great professional as she starts her career in sports. So that did come up as well. I do look for that. The next one there is that, oh my God, it's not going to be all roses. It's not all going to be step A to B to C. And you have to be understanding of it. And you have to say, I'm resilient enough to deal with it. And look, everyone wants the graph on the left. It's just not reality. It's not possible unless you're a miracle worker. And if you are, and if that happens to you, congratulations. And we are all happy for you. And for the rest of us, including me, the graph on the right is representative of real life. And there's ups and there's downs, and there's firings, and there's the bad bosses, and there's the bad decisions. It is the Dwayne Wade commercial, fall down 7 times, get up 8. That is it. And we have to understand that, you're going to be rejected from some job applications that you put in, and you're going to have some less than stellar moments. And I don't want to be that. I'm not negative. I'm an optimist by nature. But I actually think that the failures teach us, push us, inspire us, and that we are able to grow from failure. And we have to look at failure as opportunities. And so I firmly believe in this slide. And I also know that starting out, it's deflating when that happens. But once you get going, it can be fantastic. You just have to keep going until you get the career moving. So, one of the questions that Brian and Gabby in advance shared with me is, what's the day-to-day like? So I put this picture up here for you, okay? So this is a real picture from my Instagram last summer we ran, which was 19. First of all, you can see me there. I'm a whole lot tanner, a whole lot more relaxed, a whole lot happier. There was pre-COVID, you can see what's going on. But we do a thing at camp that's called Florida Gator Friday. Every Friday, there's no questions, that I'll wear something Gator, orange and blue, whatever it is. And, kids are funny. They'll wear something else and they'll tease and I'll tease. And we'll tell them that once you become the director, you can make it Georgia Bulldog Friday if you want. But day to day, I just want to put that in as the Gators go with me in my job. It's that important. I look at my main job day to day to support those around me. And so, yes, I've got to go to a lot of these meetings and, my calendar is too full, and I'm going to make time for Hannah, Nina, and Sam, who work for me on a full-time basis, because they are the ones that are really doing a bang-up job. And if I support them, camp will continue to do well, both programmatically, obviously, financially, and everything else. And I think the second bullet point there, now that COVID has come and we are all remote and not in the same office space, we're not around each other with personal interactions, you still have to communicate. I consider myself a communicator. Some would consider me an over communicator. Those who work for me are going to say, Danny tells us everything. And I believe in that. I believe in that for buy-in. I believe in that for cohesion and culture. But if they know what we're going through as a company or organization, if they know what we're going through on a camp level and they know that I trust them enough, whether it's confidential information for them, they know what's confidential or not, but it just helps so much with their buy-in, and they know that I trust them. So it works that way. So I would always encourage communication as a key point of whatever you're doing. And so I dedicate a lot of time to filling people in as to what's going on. And then visioning and planning. It's my job to understand that camp's going to open in June, and I've got to have 17 different scenarios ready to go. And we will have those 17 different scenarios because I don't know what it's going to look like in June with young people. So the visioning, the big picture, and the planning, and it's a lot of work behind the scenes that will probably never get executed. And I'm okay with it because one of those plans will get executed and we're going to do it well. So I'm happy to put in all that work behind the scenes. I'm happy to do the visioning. Look, we've got questions. Do we want to open up a new camp on the West Coast? Like, we've got some of those visioning questions that I've got to deal with. But I don't want to lose sight of the effort and the day-to-day and the tasks and sometimes you've got to do the work. You got to roll your sleeves up and do the work. So people want to sit in big offices and do what they call C-suite things. But in my mind, sometimes you roll your sleeves up and you do what you have to do. And you enjoy that. I'm a big believer in that effort can take you a long way. So in 2008, I had a kid on my team, Juan Ferralis. We were a USA Today top 25 basketball team. We had multiple McDonald's All-Americans. He was not one of them. And yet I believed in him. And I used to tell him that we coach you today for who we think you can be and for who I think that you are. And the slide on the right is from Instagram, and it was this week, literally. I sent him a happy birthday, and I hope you can read it. But he wrote back and just said, thanks. I didn't always understand it. And I know you dealt with us. I was pretty tough as a coach, and I'm still tough, and I don't apologize for it because you can be, and this is a great quote, and it's not mine. I, again, got it from another coach, but you can be demanding without being demeaning. And I think being demanding in a way that is positive and in a way that is unapologetically demanding, meaning we tell you in advance that this is not for everyone. It's the same thing even at camp. So, this kind of stuff, which thank God, we get that pretty commonly, but this kind of message means the most to me in my job. This is what it's all about. It's not about the wins and the losses or playing on ESPN or all that stuff. That's great. And I'm into the impact and the big picture. So thank you to Juan for that. And then, this slide also, and I did it in honor of Nina, she was a child from Brattleboro, Vermont, coming to basketball camp on the left. And because of this great career path, here we are 10 years later. That's at our Hall of Fame induction ceremony that we did. Actually, it was 2019. I put the wrong date on there, but that's Nina, working for us full-time as an assistant director of camp. And so, it is in her first job, by the way. So it's cool to have that and believe in people from a young age. And I think it's a very powerful thing we can do in our profession, whether you're coaching in athletic administration, working with anyone, people work with you, whatever job you have. If you truly believe in people and you can share that with them and show that to them by your actions, you are empowering them to be better and empowering them to make the difference. And so I'm a big believer in that and believing in people. And with that, look, there'll be some disappointments along the way, sure. But there's far more success stories with it, doing it that way. And there's far more happiness amongst your staff doing it that way. So one of the other questions I had was, how did COVID-19 impact us? And I appreciate the question, and it obviously impacted us a lot. Our camp is a $3 million business, and it's all generated in June and July, and we had no camp this past summer. So when you go through a whole year of zero revenue, it's impactful. But I learned skills such as fundraising this year, and I learned skills such as dealing with budgetary impact and PPP loans, and figuring out how to do things that I didn't realize I'd have to do. And then the actual kids, how do you make what we do accessible to them? And this was an opportunity, I think, to do something that I really believe in. Again, I went to my competitors, and for the first time, we collaborated together to come up with a way to get access to sports training, which is what we all do, but to do it online. And we came up, I went through all the Jewish sports organizations in North America. So Maccabi USA, the Maccabi Games, Maccabi Canada, and the 3 sports camps in my realm. We put together a site called Jewish Sports Now, and we offered the best of our coaches, of which we all hire these Division III head coaches to be our coaches. And they put together sports training videos for anyone worldwide. And as of today, we had 7,720 website views, 2,300 unique views, which is far more than we would have had if we would have had camp. So it turned out into be a way to give people an opportunity to still get what they were looking for on their own time at home. And then, in today's world, as a camp, that my personal opinion is we need to be an open and safe space for everyone. And this is something that's important to me as a leader, and I'm proud thus is important to camp. We've put a lot of time and effort into learning and listening and understanding where we can get better. And in the world of mental, emotional, social health, I can only imagine how difficult it is for young people today who have such a big percentage of their lifetimes impacted by COVID. Me, I've been around a long time, and the 1 year that we've been impacted is far less impactful to me than it is to a young person with much less years on them. And, I'm understanding of that. And, to hear the stories that I hear of depression and anxiety in young people, it's heartbreaking. And we have increased our professionals at camp that help us to deal with things like this, because look, not just at camp, but in life, people need help sometimes, and we want to be that for them. I want to be that happy place for them where they can go and be their best selves, accepting of everyone and understanding more than we do. And that starts with me, and I've got a lot to learn as well. So big opportunities for us. I'm in every task force possible. I'm on every learning opportunity and conference and learning group that I can, just so that we can go that way. And I went very fast, but I wanted to make sure that we had opportunities for questions. And if this is okay, Shelley, when we're done, I wanted to offer up some contact information, because I want people to know that I'm happy to help them or connect them with someone that can help them if possible, just knowing what a very important time it is for folks going through your program, beginning a career, and everything in between.
Yes, absolutely. Our students would love that. It's always helpful to grow your network and just be able to ask questions. So we really appreciate your openness and honesty and sharing with us, even the vulnerable side of the challenge of the summer for you guys. That's a huge deal. So thanks for being real. We do really appreciate it. And I do have a couple questions more so about kind of you and your story and career. So as far as, camps go and going from being an athletic director and basketball coach, which is a huge deal too, even at the high school level, and successful, how did you, transition into camps, and why did you go that direction? I know that's a unique kind of summer focus, but really year round.
Yeah. So you mentioned early when you introduced me, you talked about nothing but net. So that's really how it started, was certainly working in education. You don't do it for the money. I had no clue what others were making. Money's not a driver for me. And we had the opportunity when I was at Heritage, that's where it started, to start our day camp. And we were able to grow it. We grew it from Heritage to multiple different sites in South Florida, and then to California. So I got into the camping business that way. And I loved it. I had so much fun with it. I I loved the interaction with the kids, and I also loved the opportunity of my players or former players to come back and coach with us. I think that also made it exciting for me. And I happened to not, when I was a kid, I didn't go to overnight camp. I did not go at all. To me, I went to basketball camp, or that's what drove me. But I happened to go work an overnight camp, and when that happened, I was like, oh my God, I think it was one of those moments that I had 20 years earlier when I got into education. I said, oh my God, I can do this and combine, because I always liked camps, and here's an opportunity to stay involved with sports and do it. So that's how it came to be. And it was one of those moments that I didn't seek, out, but I think sought me out maybe, but I didn't know it. So yeah, day camp to overnight camp to directing, one of those things where I got to worry about more than just basketball, but happy to do so.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like, your main job, but then your side job turns into this career, which is
Exactly what happened.
Very cool. And then can you tell us, because I don't know if everyone's familiar with what your job would look like year round, working for camps and recruiting and what that means to you?
Sure. A lot of it is sales. And I think that people are scared sometimes to even say that. We all work in sales. We're all selling something. Sometimes you're selling yourself. Sometimes you're selling, in my case, I'm selling a product that you can't feel. It's not tangible. So I'm selling a feeling at camp. For our sessions at camp are 2 weeks long, and it's fairly expensive. So, year round, I'm in folks' homes trying to sell that experience and talk about the value of it and the impact of it, and the fact that, you're going to come to camp and love it and meet your best friends and get better at basketball or lacrosse or swimming or cheerleading or whatever it is. And so that's 800 plus. Last year was even 850 people that we have to sign up. That's the main thing I'm doing. And then staff wise, we hire about 150 folks, some of which are Gators, by the way, of course. And I would love more than happy to hire as many as possible. But our director of athletics, for example, he's a Gator too, by the way, the AD at Cypress Bay. But that's what we want. We want to do that, and it's not easy. It just takes time to get all that. Some of our staff is international, so I'm overseas twice a year. I'm always at conferences. Luckily enough, they ask me to speak these days, which makes it more fun to go to conferences. But so that's the day to day. Our camp is on a boarding school, so there's a little bit of relationship management there. We use the Asheville school year to year. Some camps don't do that. Some camps own their own sites. Financially, it really helped us this year to be a leased tenant in a site. The risk involved obviously was negligible to do it that way, and we have a great relationship with our site, but that comes with time and effort as well. So, for example, this awful hurricane that just went through, it's heading that way. I spent the morning on the phone with our folks in Asheville, just checking in on them and seeing how they're doing. And that you don't plan for that. Things were on my calendar, but that's the human side of things and thoughtfulness that we have to put in and want to put in for people that matter. So that's day to day. Tonight, I'm meeting with folks from the West Coast, seeing how we can introduce camp to their people and get them to come across the country. So, it's a long hours kind of thing. It's not just show up at summer camp and hope things go well. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you for sharing the details. Gabby, do you have the chat?
Yes, I do. And so, Danny, I'm going to ask you. Paige has a question for you. She wants to know, how did you manage to stay passionate about sports when you weren't pursuing a job in the industry? And what are some ways to stay passionate?
Great question. I only didn't pursue it really was less than a year, and I was volunteering. So my answer there would be to stay doing, I was volunteer coaching, and that led to me having one of those moments to say, I can do this and love it and be happy and not worry about watching a clock from 9 to 3. So I think that's a great question. I agree, Brian, I did see your response there. And I think the idea of it's that tension between, can I make this work? Because you want to start your career and you want to be able to, quite frankly, sometimes we've got to feed ourselves. Or we've got those must do's and the want to do's, and how do we find the intersection of those? And I thought that for me, teaching, which again brought into the kids into the equation, you can see the commonalities kind of looking back on it, but that for me filled those buckets of passion. I've never thought about how do you keep passion. That's a great question. I've never thought about it. I don't know the answer other than, I think each time that I've made a move, I was so excited about the move. And I wouldn't do it if I wasn't, kind of thing, especially leaving Heritage. That was a big one where, I had a pretty good gig there and needed to make a decision, but was able to do so. So I think if you're doing what you love, hopefully the passion stays. And I think it's also okay if the passion changes, right? Like I miss coaching. I miss it a lot. I'm just coaching people now versus basketball players in different ways. So it's okay if the specifics around the passion changes, because you're an ever evolving human as well along the way. So I think that you're allowed to change. It doesn't mean that the passion wanes. It just means it's different. And I think that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that was a great answer. So awesome. I think that might be our only questions. Yeah, Paige says thank you as well. That might be our only questions for today. If you want to add anything. And if not, thank you so much.
I'm so appreciative of the opportunity, and I love that you're doing this for Gators and others, and the idea that, because that's what we're doing in school. We're trying to prepare ourselves for what's next. I am a fan of grad school, and I've known now the University of Florida graduate school program is there, and I recommend it. And I think today it does set people apart. I encourage all people that work for me, even if you start part-time or do it part-time, or now the opportunity to do it online is incredible. And I'll tell you this about grad school real quick, is that every class connected with me in grad school, right? I didn't connect with the university as much, but every class connected with me. I'm not downplaying, but I didn't have the gen ed requirements, and I didn't have the classes you kind of had to take that weren't meaningful. So those couple years went by very quickly, and it was meaningful. So I do enjoy that. And if anybody here or listening would love to talk about a job or anything in between, I'm happy to share anything as well. That would be as helpful as possible. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you today. I talked for a long time, so putting up with that means a lot to me. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Gabby said. Thank you so much, and thank you for offering more resources to our students. And Brian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Danny, I just want to tell you the fundamentals that you touched on and the thoughtfulness with respect to your message was super inspiring, to the point where this is going to be a requirement for students to watch in response to some of the Director of Engaged Learning and Outreach needs in our department. So thank you for covering a lot of those fundamentals today. I'm going to steal from you, if you don't mind, is your job, because I always hear, well, that's not my job. No, it's your job, because I preached that all my life. I just never coined the term. So I will give you credit for that, because it is a very important term moving forward. And I don't think people recognize that in the jobs that we take on, you will play a role in every element, every day of your lives, and every day. That's the beauty of this. And it talks about the passion, going to what Paige is saying. That's what keeps my passion going, is because every day of my life is different. Sometimes it's frustrating, and I think you touched on that, but nonetheless, it's a driver for success, in my opinion. So you did a great job. I could listen to you for hours.
Thank you.
Subject matter.
I wouldn't put you through that.
Yeah, no, maybe we could talk offline, but nonetheless. So the University of Florida, Department of Sport Management, and the Voices from the Field team, thank you so much for your contributions today. This has been inspirational and very helpful. So I look forward to continuing this relationship, and I will definitely be promoting this on a variety of fronts. And hopefully you will continue to engage with our students in the next semesters that are coming up. And hopefully there'll be a return to normalcy for your organization this upcoming summer, so that things will be back on track, because we need it, and our students need it, and the world needs it, if you get where I'm coming from. So thank you so much, and go Gators, right?
Thank you, and go Gators, exactly.
Definitely. Take care, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you
everybody.
so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.